and welcome to a new episode of Shifting Gears. For today's video, I'd like to pose a question. Is the 690 Enduro getting worse? In 2019, the 690 was given a major update, with many changes bringing it in line with the Husky 701. Now, everyone's opinion could be different because you can look at this two different ways. The first is to look at the bike's changes in a positive way. The newer models have 74 horsepower, which is around a 10% increase over the previous generation. The newer motor also comes with two balancer shafts to smooth out engine vibration. KTM also added a quick shifter, as well as a slew of traction control modes that coincide with the map switch, which they conveniently placed on the handlebars instead of tucking it away under the seat. They even have a larger tank, 0.4 gallons more to be exact, all this adding just 10 pounds to the bike's wet weight. That doesn't sound too bad at all when you put it like that. However, I'm more of a pessimist. Here's how I see it. That 10% increase in power only amounts to 7 horsepower, which you likely won't notice, especially if you're off-roading. The quick shifter is a feature that no one, other than maybe supermoto bros, asked for. And what's with all the traction control modes? This isn't a beginner bike. Lastly, the extra fuel capacity is actually only 0.36 gallons more, which, depending on your fuel economy, will net you an extra 20 miles of range at best. In addition, the bike now weighs 10 pounds more, which isn't great considering the 690 was already on the heavier side of the dual sport category. But now that we've looked at things from both points of view, there's still a few more changes that KTM made to the 690 that are unquestionably negative. First, there's the seat. I've always considered the stock seat on my 2017 to be extremely underrated, or at least underappreciated. Some publications even compared it to a rock. Apparently they've never sat on a 450L or EXC, but now you might as well be on an EXC with that flat board they're putting on the 690 these days. The second atrocity is the dash. Instead of a large, beautiful display with an actual tachometer, KTM put in what looks like the same shitty unit from the 500 EXC. Honestly, a Vapor would be better. And you know it's a bad look when your flagship model starts getting parts from the model below it. Shouldn't it be the other way around? Then again, maybe the EXC is now the flagship model, seeing as it costs $50 more than the 690. Speaking of price, that's another negative for the new models. My 2017 cost $10,800 when it was new. The current model costs almost $2,000 more. Of course, inflation has a lot to do with it, but the 690's price increases have easily outpaced inflation rates up until this year. And if all that weren't bad enough, KTM had to make the move to Euro 5 emission standards, which, from what I've heard, is really annoying for riders. And as of now, there are very few, if any, solutions to bypass the issues. Finally, from an aesthetic standpoint, I feel the colorway for the current 690 is just awful. All that gray is a terrible offset for the orange and white. At least the Husky looks a bit better, but even they look worse than their 2017 to 2019 variants. Now, whether you're looking at things from the positive or the pessimistic point of view, do the few positive changes even seem worth it anymore? If you're still with me at this point, I'd like to try and delve into why KTM made the changes they did. Since I worked in a similar industry, my mind always goes to one thing: cost savings. I can tell you right off the bat that the new dash and crappy seat saved a bunch of money. Enough to give you a quick shifter, I guess. But again, who even asked for one? The quick shifter is likely a shared part as well, seeing that it's available on other models. The traction control modes probably cost the company next to nothing too. They have the same options on their adventure bikes. All they needed to do was tweak the software a little and they were good to go. The increased horsepower and balanced engine are really the only notable upgrades, and they're fairly cost effective as well. They simply swapped out the old balancer shaft for a new design, which, even without having any insider knowledge, I can assure you costs no more than the old one. As for where the extra 7 horsepower comes from, tuning, I guess. The point is that in this day and age, no company makes changes without first weighing the costs. They will do everything they can to cut costs, but the consumer is never going to see a penny of savings for themselves. And I'm not going to give KTM the benefit of the doubt or pretend that they're some kind of exception to the rule. They're owned in part by Pierer Mobility as well as Bajaj Auto from India, where the 390 and smaller bikes are being made. KTM is also expected to build a plant in China that would serve the Asian market, and I believe the plan is still in place. And while most current bikes are still made in Austria, you can bet that the parts are already sourced from all over the world. With further expansion into India and China, it's likely only a matter of time before most major components for KTMs are produced there. But getting back to the 690, KTM has made another odd move by making a gas version of both the Enduro and Supermoto. When I heard the news, I thought for sure that KTM would be moving production of all their 690 models to Spain in order to cut costs. However, as far as I can tell, the bikes are still being made in Austria, and the prices are the same across the board. So no discount for switching to red plastics, and I'm left baffled at the reasoning behind it. Perhaps my prediction will eventually come true, and the production will move to Spain. Only time will tell. In any case, it won't make things cheaper for us, and with harsher and stricter emission regulations, the day of the mighty LC4 may be coming to an end altogether. I honestly don't know where KTM can go with the platform from here. Heaven forbid they try to make an electric version. I've also heard talk of a small parallel twin Enduro. Neither of these things would be a true next generation 690, but they could certainly be KTM's attempt to replace it.